This is week 2, lecture notes, and our first topic is graphing. So if you've got your copy of the lecture notes handy and a spare piece of paper, preferably graph paper today, you're ready to go. So we're going to do a lot of graphing for the rest of this course, and so we'll need to review a couple of things first. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that you see graphs in your life all the time. Maybe the newspaper, magazines, other textbooks, and just a couple of things to keep in mind. Here's a graph of a scatter plot, and some of the details that we want to make sure we're including if we are making a graph about something real is a title for the graph so our audience knows what it's about. Labels for the vertical axis, that's the y-axis in this case, and the horizontal axis, the x-axis, labels such as months here, and in this case we've got no label, so I don't know what it is, but it could be dollar amounts. And other things that we need to notice are points, plotted points for specific information. For instance, in January we had about $400 worth of whatever this was. Since there's no label, I don't know yet. In April we had about $600 worth. So these are individual points, and of course we can connect them with line segments if we want to show a trend. Another type of graph you might find in your everyday life would be, for instance, appropriate children's ages and weights and how they're related. And again, we can see this one's actually labeled. We don't have a title. It should have a title. But we do have the x-axis labeled with average weights of American female children by age 12, and then the child's age. And we could pick out specific points and understand what they mean. For instance, here we have a child that's about 8 years old, and that child's height would be somewhere between 51 and 57 inches. Looks like it might be about 54 or 53, something like that. Okay, we're going to review graphing by plotting some points. And if you remember, this is a 4-quadrant graph. We've got the first quadrant here, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. And in the first quadrant, all the x values for a point's coordinates and all the y values are positive. So if we want to graph the point 2 for x and y for 5, we find the x-axis, and this point, by the way, would look like this, as you can see here. And if you're getting confused at first, label the pair of numbers in the coordinate pair. X always comes first, y always comes second. Think about the alphabet. It goes X, Y, and Z. So X and Y. So I locate the x-axis. I start with my pencil at 0, and it says positive 2. If the x value is positive, I walk 2 units to the right. Now my grid's a little hard to see, but you hopefully have yours in front of you. If I don't label any of the grid lines on my graph, it's assumed that I'm going by ones. It's assumed that I'm going by ones. So if I go over 1, 2 notches, and then that's my x value, y is 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would go over 2 and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces and put a point right at the intersection of the two lines, the one representing 2 for x and the one representing 5 for y. So again, graphing a coordinate pair, you look at the x value first, and that's how much you go across. If it's positive, you go to the right of 0, 0. We'll practice some other points so that you can practice going left for negative. If the y value is positive, in this case it is, we're going to go up. And of course we went up then 5 units. If the y value is negative, we'll go down. Alright, let's go to a piece of graph paper just so you can see better. If you want to continue graphing points on this grid, just because it's handy, you may. Let's practice graphing a couple more points. So I've got my y-axis and my x-axis. And I do like to label these so I can keep straight which one is which. And let's graph the point -3, +4. Again, until you're really practiced, make sure you label the two numbers in the coordinate pair, x and then y. Alright, so I start with my pencil at 0, 0, because the x value is -3. Along the x-axis, that's my number line. If I go right, it's positive. If I go left, 1, 2, 3, there's my -3. Now, if you want, you can number these. It's not necessary if you are moving by 1 unit at a time. It's only necessary to label your x and y axis if you're moving by more than 1 unit at a time or less. Let's do that in this case. Let's say that for my y-axis I want to number by 2s. Let's say I want to number by 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then it's absolutely necessary to label your axes if you travel by more than 1 unit at a time. So let's say I want to do that. And notice I can use a different scale on this on each axis. They do not have to match. They do have to match along a single axis. Notice I'm going by 1s along the x-axis. I need to do that consistently on both sides of 0. I also need to choose whatever unit I'm using along the y-axis and stick with that from 0 on up and from 0 on down. Always stick with the same spaces per unit. Alright, so I was graphing the point -3, 4, and I already walked 1, 2, 3 left for the -3, left of 0, and now +4, since I was going by 2s, +4 will be up just 2 spaces to 4. So this is the point -3, 4. Let's plot another point. Let's plot 6, -8. 6, -8. Alright, label them again so you don't forget which point, the numbers goes on which axis. And I'm going to go along the x-axis, +6. So my x-axis is here, starting at 0, 0. I want to travel to +6. Let's finish this, numbering this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I want to travel along the y-axis to -8. That's going to be below 0, 0. So I'm traveling down 2, 4, 6, 8. And this is the point 6, -8. Go ahead and plot these 2 points, and we'll come back and check and see how you do with them. Plot -2, -1, and plot 0, 5.